Hello, welcome to Get Your Mind On. I'm Lori Stohs. Are you the individual who, when you think of a party is less than 6 people? Are you an individual who prefers to get energized by being alone? When you think about what you're saying, do you stop and pause? If so, it may happen that you're an introvert. Now, that's not a bad thing. Introverts are great things. Sometimes we really step back and think about how people respond to situations and who people are. Now, one thing many of you, if you know me, will say, I don't put people in boxes. I really understand the uniquenesses of others. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to talk about introverts and extroverts. And that's a little tough for me because I know everybody's not fully an introvert or fully an extrovert. We all have our own personality. But today we're going to talk a little bit about introverts and what those behaviors are that we see in introverts and how we can understand them better, how we can really work better with them. And if you're one, you can understand yourself better and know that it's okay to be an introvert. It's about a third to a half of our population are introverts. And again, there's varying levels of introvert. And so when you think about introverts, when we look back at really research and say, what is the brain and how does the brain work? It is a brain wiring situation with a reticular activating system in our brain stem that determines our level of introversion or extroversion. So if we're an introvert, that reticular activating system is already high, meaning it's already acting at a high level. So it's already stimulating. So when you add to that, it feels very, very overwhelmed. So those of us who are introverts we're already at that high level of stimulation. And if you put us in larger environments, then that stimulation gets even more and it just gets overwhelming. So there is a wiring piece. It is part of our personality. So when you think about introverts, those are the individuals who do get energized by being alone. They get energized by really sitting and thinking conceptually. They're the ones who are pausing before they think. They don't jump to saying things quickly. They stop, they pause, they're processing the words that they have. Then when the words come out, then when they even tell you the words, they're even thinking about what those words were saying and how they were accepted. So that processing time is slower. It's not bad. It's always the ones who, when they talk, they're the ones who say the things that you go, oh wow, I didn't really think of it that way, because of the way they're processing. So when we think about working with introverts, I think a lot of us have to think about, if you're an extrovert, you're already looking for stimulation, lots of people, lots of groups. How do we brainstorm together? Sometimes that's not the best situation to put them in. Is really we need to be aware of when we're thinking about our introverts that we're stopping and saying, what's the best way for them to work? That's better to maybe put them in pairs. It's better to do that instead of putting them in a large group. The other thing is the communication type. And it's interesting as I've watched this in the recent company I've been working in, the difference of being able to speak about something verbally versus process it internally and in writing. So our communication styles are different, and also depending on the size of group, right? So if you're asking for somebody to respond to a situation and they're more of an introverted personality, number one, depends on the type of the question, if it's a deep question, and if it is very thorough and in front of a large group, that's probably not best to put them in the situation to talk about it verbally. They like processing time. So it's best to give them the situation first, let them process, and they're better in email. Their communication style is better in email. They like to communicate. They're very thorough. If you read their emails from anyone who's more of an introvert, you will see they're very thorough. They're very detail-oriented most of the time. So I think that's a good thing when you think about that in terms of how you can get the best out of them and their personalities and how they feel comfortable, because that's what we want, everybody to feel comfortable with who they are. The other thing is sometimes we may think we can throw something spontaneous on them. Introverts are a little bit more planned. They prefer to have a little bit more notice. They're not one that you should just throw something on quickly. They can respond to it, but if they have to do that every day, it's probably not a great thing for them to do. Also, if you do have to interact or have a conference or somewhere where they have to be a part of it, it's interesting because many speakers are introverts. It's interesting. They have that great presence of content and they can communicate that content well, but they don't like doing the small talk afterwards. When you're doing those conferences, even in a social setting, those introverts are the ones who usually will do the one-on-one conversation. They're not great at small talk. They prefer deep conversations. And so if you can, if you're an extrovert and this introvert is a partner of yours, the best thing that you can do for them is to be their connector and help them to connect to the people that they want to be connected to, and then they could start that deeper conversation. So for positive charge this week, first, are you an introvert? If so, what in your personality aligns to these types of things? And have you communicated to others about your needs as an introvert? And 3, if you're not an introvert, how do you recognize those introverts and set them up for success, either as a friend of yours or in the workplace? So we all have different personalities, and our personalities is what makes us unique and special. Introversion has unique gifts, and they are aware of who they are and what they need and how they need to be energized. And their cup is emptied by lots of people and lots of stimulation. So we can surround them by filling up their cup by really giving them the time that they need to recharge their energy by being alone. Thanks for joining us today, and remember to get your mind on.